A federal judge in Chicago ordered a top Trump official to appear in court to answer for his alleged violation of a court order by tossing a tear gas canister into a crowd of protesters in Chicago. I'm Adam Klasfeld, and you're watching All Rise News here on Legal AF, part of the Midas Touch Network. Take a moment to hit subscribe. Now, today, I'm going to talk about this man on the screen right now. His name is Greg Bovino. He's a senior Border Patrol officer whose official title is the sector chief of the division in El Centro, California. But he is the face of Trump's so-called Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago. All of the immigration raids, all of the attacks on protesters, journalists, and clergy who have started a lawsuit and obtained a temporary restraining order to curb those abuses. Officer Bavino, Chief Bavino, is the face of that operation. And this is a picture of him, once again, with an underhand toss of a tear gas canister, one of two tosses of tear gas that the people who are suing the government over the use of excessive force say are multiple violations of a court order by the guy who's in charge of the operation. I'm going to give a little bit of background of Chief Bavino, because this is not the first time we're hearing about him in the Trump administration. Earlier this year, Chief Bavino claimed that he had arrested dozens of people with criminal records during a raid in California. Local press looked into it. That turned out to be a lie. 77 of 78 of the people detained in that raid had no criminal record. He made some headlines again after Trump deployed the troops, the National Guard and the Marines, into Los Angeles. And he made headlines because the commander of that operation, a U.S. Army general by the name of Major General Scott Sherman, had testified at a trial that Chief Bavino questioned his loyalty to the United States after 3 decades of military service because this Major General questioned the need to send troops to MacArthur Park in Los Angeles, an iconic place for immigrants, a park that is very well known for its symbolism for the immigrant community. He didn't think that it was necessary to deploy troops as a show of force into that park. And Chief Bavino questioned his loyalty to the United States for it. Chief Bavino leads a civilian law enforcement sector for the Border Patrol. And that's all before so-called Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago. And this is a clip of what landed him into hot water. The underhand toss of a tear gas canister into a crowd of protesters.
Fucking terrorizers, traffickers, get the fuck out! Where is my people?
Now, to be clear, Judge Ellis's order specifically forbade law enforcement from tossing tear gas into crowds unless they were at risk of imminent, immediate bodily injury or death. Here's the language of the order. It prohibits them from firing CS or CN gas canisters, controlled noise or light distraction devices, or less lethal specialty impact or chemical munitions so as to strike any person, including by deploying these weapons above the head of the crowd unless the person poses an immediate threat of causing serious bodily injury or death to a person in equivalent circumstances to those where the officer is authorized to use deadly force. So unless it's a grave enough situation that an officer is allowed to use deadly force, they can't casually lob a tear gas canister. And so here's how the Department of Homeland Security answered that on social media. They wrote, quote, "The mob of rioters grew more hostile and violent, advancing toward agents and began throwing rocks and other objects at agents, including one that struck Chief Greg Bovino in the head. Border Patrol agents repeated multiple warnings to back up and that chemical agents would be deployed if warnings were ignored. Now, here's how the plaintiffs who sued and successfully won a temporary restraining order against the federal government responded to that. They said, quote, "The statement is a lie," end quote. And how do they know the statement was a lie? They have video evidence, including that clip you just saw. No warnings preceding it. Chief Bavino had claimed that he was struck in the head. There's nothing on the tape suggesting that. He said that he was hit with a firecracker. There's nothing found on the scene to that effect, according to this document. There were sworn declarations by people who were there saying under oath, I didn't see this thing happen. And what other evidence do they have? They have Chief Bavino's own words in press interviews on the scene, talking to reporters. Here's one of the things that he said to journalists on the scene. He's quoted saying something to the effect of, quote, "Did Judge Ellis get hit in the head by a rock like I did this morning?" End quote. Says later in the interview that, quote, "Maybe she needs to see what that's like before she gives an order like that," end quote. And one thing about Judge Ellis started these proceedings, like many judges across the country, saying that she's been getting threats since being assigned to this case and potentially ruling and eventually actually ruling against the Trump administration, that's caused threats against her. And here's Chief Bavino saying maybe she needs to see what that's like, meaning getting hit in the head by a rock. He also said in an interview that, quote, "I take my orders from the executive branch," suggesting disdain for this court's authority to enjoin his unlawful conduct. Here's him saying that in an interview.
Well, definitely. I take my orders from the executive branch.
Yes.
Whether that's President Trump or Secretary Noem.
Now, Chief Bavino has to answer for those actions. Judge Ellis ordered him to sit for a 5-hour deposition about his conduct. It was originally supposed to be a 2-hour deposition. She extended it after getting the notices of the violation of her order. So there's a 5-hour deposition, and she personally ordered him to appear in court this week to answer for his alleged violations. We'll find out soon whether that's the first step for accountability for the guy who's in charge, the face of what's going on in Chicago. Thank you for watching. To support the work I do, visit www.allrisenews.com. That's www.allrisenews.com. If you become a subscriber, you can find the work that I do, get it straight to your inbox. And to view more videos like these, hit subscribe and find more of my work here on Legal AF.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.